There we go. And our presenter today is Ashlyn Neisen, who is the coordinator of the Cougarplex, which is the fitness center at Illinois Central College. And then she has this presentation called Healthy Holidays, Prioritizing Your Wellness Through the Seasons, which I'm sure we're all going to need as we start hitting there's food here, there's food there, there's food everywhere type of thing, making sure that we try to pick healthy choices and stay on our exercise routines if we can. And then after this presentation, Valerie Moore from Prairie State College is going to help us with a little bit of a guided meditation to kind of help us in the mental aspect of what we need to get through the holidays or through any stressful times here. So we'll go ahead and get started. And Ashlyn, it's all yours.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to present for you guys today. This is definitely a topic that I'm really passionate about in the fitness industry. Typically, clearly, most of our people come in January. And so holidays is always a really passionate time for me, just because this is the time of the year when people start to tell me their fitness goals and say they'll come see me in 2 months. And I tell them, please don't, just start now. But we see in the fitness industry, the busiest time of the year, or the busiest day, I should say, of the year, is the first Monday of the new year. Because everyone likes to start new habits in a new year, in a new month, on a new week. So always that first Monday is where we see everyone's health goals start to come out. But it doesn't have to all come out on that day. We can look at aspects, and today we'll look at aspects of nutrition, of fitness, and mental wellness, which are all things that you can slowly start incorporating over the holidays, even if you do want to start a whole new fitness routine in January. So some of the things we'll be covering today, if you want to go to the next slide, Amy.
Yeah.
So some of the things we'll really be focusing on is skipping breakfast or meals, the I should list, calorie weight loss or weight management challenges that we see this time of year, avoiding bad foods, and I'll work out later. So I try to make my presentations and the way I approach fitness and overall wellness really entertaining and relatable, just because it's things we hear every single year. So I like to kind of give a different perspective on that and really make it interactive. So if you have questions, we'll definitely go through personal questions as well at the end here. So starting off with nutrition. I start with nutrition because that seems to be everyone's focus around holidays. Like Amy just mentioned, we're about to have a lot of food thrown at us at different parties, different options there, foods we don't see other times of the year. So it makes that a really important focus this time of year. We will specifically focus on calories, protein, and BMR. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide there, Amy. So when we think about that with calories, protein, and BMR, a lot of people have practiced maybe logging their foods, tracking calories that way. It's definitely a great habit to be in. When people start getting deeper and tracking their macros, so looking at protein, fat, carbs, generally me just saying the word carbs, everyone's like, I won't do it, I promise. Like, it's fine, we can eat carbs. I'm not here to tell you not to eat carbs. I am going to eat plenty of carbs all year round, not just this time. But when I start looking deeper into nutrition, I tell people to just focus on calories and protein. Okay, most of us do not get enough protein in our day. Tracking will just start kind of revealing the lack of protein typically, unless you've really been practicing at it, because it's not always foods we think to grab first. So protein sources, lots of protein sources out there, whether you're plant-based, vegan, meat eater. There's always a source of protein that you can find. Definitely dig deeper and research those if you don't know, or if you have a restricted diet, because there are options for you. If you don't find an easy answer, My email will be at the end of this presentation as well, and I'm happy to always dig into that with you. So tracking protein, the first starting point is always trying to make sure we're over 100 grams of protein a day. Yeah, a lot. I know, it's a lot. So that's why I always start with 100 a day. Most people actually require, women closer to 120, 130, men all the way up to 200 grams of protein a day. Maybe higher if they have a sport specific goal or if they're really training hard. But especially women normally are shocked at the 100 grams a day. Those are the foods that are going to leave you feeling more filled as well. Those are going to help you maintain your muscle mass. They're going to fight off fatigue. If you are trying to introduce new exercises, or if you do have a current workout routine you love, those are going to help build that lean muscle or maintain that lean muscle. Calories, if you can focus on hitting over 100 grams of protein and staying at an appropriate calorie amount for you, then generally the other numbers of carbs and fat are going to fall about where they should be. I don't get too picky as far as which direction it's going, just because there's a lot of food preferences there. And if you're just starting to track, we don't really need to worry about that. If we're hitting our protein to conserve and build our muscle mass, as well as getting the appropriate calories a day, then everything else is going to start taking care of itself without getting too picky on it. So on the current slide here, starting with the calorie-based challenges, I always mention this around holidays just because a lot of workplaces will do fun, I say in quotes, like 1,200 calorie challenges, 1,500 calorie challenges, things like that. I don't know if any of you have been a part of that before, but I hear that a lot, that I want to come in, I want to train, but just so you know, like I already know what my nutrition is going to be because my workplace is doing a 1,200 calorie diet. And I beg them to stop. But I give them the information so that they can go back and maybe alter their challenge a little bit. One thing I would encourage anyone to take away from this and explore, regardless of where you are in your health and fitness journey, is to find a place, whether it's a fitness facility, a nutrition or supplement company, that has an in-body machine. So in-body or Fit3D, both are going to give you valuable numbers for your health. That first one's scary. It's okay, just because it's throwing a lot of numbers about your body type and about your wellness to you. But it's just a starting point. It's just so that you have the information to make decisions you want to make regarding your health. With those calorie-based challenges, typically I bring those machines up at this time because they will evaluate your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. So that is the amount of calories that your body needs in a day just to function, just to survive. So that is counting waking up and laying in bed and being a vegetable all day. It's not counting going to work. It's not counting shoveling the snow, chasing the kids around, going to work out. It's not counting any of that. So typically these challenges, the calorie base that they set typically falls below most people's basal metabolic rate, which puts them in a calorie deficit, an extreme calorie deficit most of the time. Calorie deficits, typically people love that phrase because they're like, yes, fat loss. Not always. So we do want to operate in a calorie deficit, but we want that to come from the exercise we're incorporating into our day, not from being under the basic number of calories we need to survive. So if you are falling under those calories that your basal metabolic rate requires, you might start having symptoms like you're getting colds more often, which is prevalent this time of year anyway. You're feeling fatigued all the time. Your muscles are more sore. Things like that can be triggers and cues that you're not eating enough. So you're way too far under that basal metabolic rate. So those challenges, we looked at what they are. Okay, so typically they're 1,200, 1,500 calorie challenges. Sometimes they are just try to hit this number this many times this month. Sometimes they incorporate a weigh-in into there. I encourage people to try to maintain over the holidays. Don't try to lose over the holidays, just because normally that puts a little too much mental pressure and stress on people as well, which we don't want this time of year. The idea behind them is good. And most of the time it comes from a mindfulness idea that we're tracking what we're eating, we're thinking about it, we're making better choices, but it doesn't always come out that way, which is why those challenges are probably not for many people at all. Some people might have a really low basal metabolic rate, which makes it okay where they set the numbers, but that is very, very rare. But I will never say never. So if we go to the next slide here, this will kind of give an example of what that 1,200 calorie diet meal plan would look like. I never like to use the word diet or agree with someone that they're doing a diet, because I'm all for longevity. So I want to make sure that everyone makes choices that they are good with for the rest of their life. I am not the type of person that is against any type of diet or meal plan, but deeper behind it is where the issues come in. So people saying I'm doing the keto diet. Okay, let's not call it a diet. If you wish to do keto and you're okay with that for the rest of your life and it works for your body, that might be something that's good for you. But when we tie diet to it, it makes it a temporary thing that can cause bigger negative effects over time. So if we look at just that 1,200 calorie, if this was what you were doing for a challenge like that, it would get you over those 100 grams of protein. So at least this example does tie in that 100 grams of protein. But the carbs and fat are extremely low. So eating that few of carbs does put you closer to like a keto type diet. And typically does not give you enough energy to work out during the day and to feel really good about it. Also that fat, if we just look at this example here of what they also put on this plate, just the avocado, the eggs, things like that are going to add a lot of fat to your diet. So if you add cheese to any of that, typically you're already getting over. So typically fat can fall a little above that as well. But you can tell just based on this, those plates look very small. So we can see one is pretty much just a salad and some grapes. They do slip some protein in there, probably a little chicken or something. But we can tell they're all very small portions that will probably not leave you feeling satisfied if you're just starting to track things, and you will be miserable throughout that challenge. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide here. So here we've covered the protein and calories. We've talked about BMR. Avoiding bad foods is the next thing that people really start talking about all time of year, right, Valerie? I know, I would starve. So talking about bad foods, and this gets into the mental aspect as well. When we talk about bad foods or label things a bad food, we start to tie a moral code to it, which can really start shifting how our brain thinks about food, which honestly, it already has. Our society is very built around diets and bad foods. So it takes some effort to change that mindset. I currently have an 8-month-old daughter at home, and already I'm making my husband practice how we talk about food, because we know what we're talking about. And we know if we say, that was a bad food, like we know it was a bad choice compared to other choices we had. But just starting to eliminate that word when we talk about food is really important to us as we think about her growing up and making food choices as well. Tying that moral code to it, a bad food starts to tell us I'm bad. I made a bad choice. I'm making bad choices, when the food itself is not bad. It just all varies in nutritional content. So if you look on that top right-hand picture, it kind of breaks down how many calories is in each gram of our macros. So protein, 4 calories per gram. Carbs, 4 calories per gram. Fats have more calories per gram, which also tells us, if we're starting to track this, that easy thing, if you're a person that throws cheese on everything, your calories and your macros are going to go up a lot faster just because of the fat content in that. And then alcohol, 7 calories per gram. So yeah, I always talk about the calories in alcohol as well, because typically people don't know how to think about what they're adding to their bodies if they have alcohol this time of year. Again, everything in moderation. We don't label as bad. It's just a choice that has very little nutritionist value for us. So when you think about, I can have a little alcohol, or I can have almost double the protein or carbs, then we start to make different choices as far as what we want to put in our bodies that day. Machines, yes, I will add those to the chat as well here at the end. So meal skipping. This is the other factor that goes in this time of year, because we start thinking about what we want to eat. We think about the pie that is coming later in the day. So we tell ourselves we'll just skip breakfast. Normally when we skip meals is when we overeat the next meal, and then we feel miserable. It's not one of those, again, we're not going to label it bad, but we don't feel good. And that's just a response from our body that's guiding us towards better choices. So even if you have a small breakfast, have something. Skipping those meals is just where we get into dangerous zones of overeating and not feeling good, feeling miserable by midday because you didn't eat breakfast. So then you're not even really enjoying the food later because you're so hungry. Just keeping balanced and keeping our metabolism even throughout the day will be really important as well. When we look at skipping meals, it also does really interesting things with our blood sugar. So if you're diabetic, especially, you're used to don't skip meals. Another thing that people don't always think about, if anyone has low blood pressure, that's another one that you don't want to skip meals, because then if you overeat, it'll send your blood pressure just on a little roller coaster, just up and down, and you will not feel good throughout the day. I am someone that has always had low blood pressure, so I always have snacks with me. I subbed a silver sneakers class yesterday, and they really thought I was joking when I said I was getting me a snack after that class. But by golly, it was with me, because just keeping something in your body every 3-4 hours generally keeps all of those levels more even. The blood sugar, the blood pressure, keeps your mood and your hunger and appetite more even throughout the day. We can go ahead and go to the next slide here. All right, now we're breaking into fitness. So schedules, workouts, equipment. I love this little snowman picture I found. It's definitely going to be added into more presentations as I go here. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide here. We're going to break all this down. So schedules. I would say the most dangerous phrase for anyone over the holidays is I'll work out later. So, we have that quiet morning, we kind of have an opportunity, but we're like, I'll get to it later. And then later never happens. And then it's 8:00 at night and you have no desire to work out at 8:00 at night. So if you have that chance to get your workouts in the morning, do so. Just because things tend to get more chaotic throughout the day, or then you're exhausted from wrangling children, cooking, dealing with in-laws, who knows? So always try to make sure to get it in when you can. It leaves you feeling like you're already accomplished for the day. It leaves you with more energy and focus just because everything is firing and connecting and your body is wide awake. It can improve nutrition just because it balances some of those hormones and cravings that we talked about just with eating regularly as well. And it'll also help you sleep better. Okay, so working out at night sends a lot of hormones rampant in your body that wake you up. Okay, now I understand that there's some people that absolutely cannot work out in the morning. They do not feel good waking up in the morning. Try to still do it midday, just because the closer you get at night, it could be influencing your sleep cycles as well, especially if you're someone that likes to drink caffeine before you work out, just because that will cause a whole nother effect in your body. For one, the caffeine typically has a 5-hour half-life. So coffee, be considerate of it, but normally not the biggest deal. If there is anyone in the group that likes pre-workouts, energy drinks, Alani's, things like that, that have 200 milligrams of caffeine, 300 milligrams of caffeine, which is the daily limit for the day. I know you shake your head, Valerie. I do drink that much caffeine in a day sometimes, but it's always in the morning, so it can wear off. Those are the things we really have to be mindful of because they have a 5-hour half-life. So people don't think that if I drink this at 5 o'clock at night, at 10 o'clock, half of that amount is still going rampant in our system, which is just chaotic for our sleep cycles. So being mindful of that. Typically 10 hours is when the caffeine is completely out of your system. So if you work out right before bed and take a pre-workout or drink one of those drinks, there is a chance that that caffeine is through your system your entire sleep cycle, which will not feel good in the morning. Normally you're real droggy, possibly even like the NyQuil effect. Like if you are someone that doesn't respond great to NyQuil and you wake up and just feel super drowsy and can't seem to wake yourself up, it would be similar to that. Workouts. The recommended workout time is 150 minutes of moderate to intense exercise per week. So moderate to intense, you're breaking a good sweat. If you're someone that walks every day, that is great additional exercise, but it might not be challenging enough for your body to actually get those heart rate spikes. Okay, so you want to pick some type of exercise where your heart rate is elevating and then returning to normal. And you can keep cycling like that, or you can do kind of a steady state cardio where you're getting that heart rate to a certain level and maintaining it for a certain amount of time. But the goal should always be 150 minutes each week of some type of sweat inducing exercise. You should also be trying to work in 2 days of strength training, which can definitely contribute to those 150 minutes of moderate to intense exercise. There's a lot of different ways to strength train. A lot of people instantly think big lifts, bulky, putting on muscle, not at all. I am a huge advocate for teaching women strength training, not only for the muscle benefits and protecting our bone mineral density as we age, but also for the mental benefits of it just being a really empowering exercise for women. So make sure not to shy away from the strength training. You will definitely break a sweat. If you feel like you're not challenged enough by it, or you're not getting that heart rate spike to contribute to those 150 minutes, think lighter weights, faster pace. So less recovery time in between sets. Turning it into a circuit. So you're doing 30 seconds of exercise, 30 seconds of rest. You can also do it that way. So there's a lot of different ways to tackle even the same workout. And equipment. So this time of year, people are traveling a lot. People are at home a lot more normally, especially for you guys if your institutions close for any amount of time over the holidays. Being at home can add different challenges just because you're not used to working out there. Bands are a huge piece of equipment that is really useful to have at home. Fits in a suitcase great. Those can be purchased on Amazon and they are generally not very expensive. There's different types of bands as well. Using a chair or a table for exercises, get creative with it. Do squats down to a chair. You can do single leg squats down to a chair if you want to make it more challenging. Table, use it for push-ups. Bathroom counters, great for push-ups, typically a good height, just to get some type of exercise in with those as well. Stairs will always be useful. Make sure it's a good setting. You don't have slick stairs. I know one year my brother was assigned to clean our parents' stairs for the holidays, and he cleaned them with Pledge. Those were definitely not the stairs to work out on for the holiday. It was a funny scenario, and he probably succeeded in his goal of we never asked him to clean the stairs again. But make sure you're in a safe environment. Everything's cleaned out. But you can do step ups on stairs. You can just walk up and down the stairs a certain amount of times to get that heart rate elevated. And another piece of equipment I love to recommend is furniture movers. So in most gyms, you'll see something called Val slides. All they are is fancy furniture movers that were patented for the fitness industry, and they make a lot of money off them, and they're really expensive. Go to Lowe's, go to Walmart, get some furniture movers that just have the sliders on the bottom. And those can be great exercise tools for at home. If you have any area of carpet or a rug, they will slide perfectly on it. You can put them under your hands and do plank exercises. You can put them under your heels to do glute bridges, and do some hamstring work. You can stand up and put a heel on them and slide them out to do side lunges. There are a lot of options for that. If you Google slider exercises, you'll get an entire YouTube library of things people have come up with to do with those sliders. And we will move on here to our last slide. So mental and emotional wellness. Typically, this is one that we really talk about over the holidays, but we don't focus on it most of the time, which is kind of a backwards way of thinking. But we're so in our routine of go, 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 that sometimes this is the hardest one to focus on. Planning ahead, making sure those workouts are on your calendar, because if it's not on your calendar, you're not going to make time for it. Being realistic about what you can put into your day or what will get done. Of course, don't worry. Everyone says that. Very hard to not worry if you are a worrier. But I like to operate on a big three mentality. And I do it at work. I do it in my personal life. I maintain it through holidays just because it helps me stay focused on what I need to do in that day to move myself forward in a productive and positive way. So focusing on the big three is picking your big three tasks that need to get done that day so that you feel accomplished, can sleep well, and move productively into the next day. So I used to only pick 3 work-related things, just because that's where I was really focused and wanted to make sure I was being as productive as possible. But because I wanted to focus more on my mental and emotional wellness as well, now I like to pick 1 work-related thing, 1 personal-related thing, and 1 fitness or mental-related thing. Just so I'm trying to stay more well-balanced as far as the things I'm focusing on in my life. Saying no to some things is always good over the holidays. I know sometimes that is hard. Personally, my grandma, if I don't put some of every food she made on my plate, she thinks something's instantly wrong with it. So sometimes it does get on the plate and then it gets shuffled under something. So she feels fine, but I'm not eating it because I don't want it. Or she's been more open to those conversations as well. There's just some foods that my body doesn't feel good after I eat. So understanding, no, there's nothing wrong with your food, Grandma. That's just not the choice I'm making today. Staying active, talked about that. Acknowledging our feelings. and setting aside differences, which is sometimes hard to do in this climate as well. Everyone has that one family member that likes to pick something to argue about at the dinner table. But really trying to just simplify everything this time of year. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Don't make those unrealistic expectations. One of the things we said at the beginning was that I should list. So that is probably the one that I am most guilty of because I'm at home more. So I say, I should repaint the bathroom. I've been meaning to. I should make sure all of this laundry is caught up and all the house is decluttered. And we start building more things into our schedule than we normally would just because we feel guilty being at home and truly relaxing. So one of the things I like to incorporate with this, the mindfulness activity you're about to do after this will be great for that as well. I particularly like the Calm app. So it's just called Calm, and it has a variety of meditations and quick mindfulness exercises. Most of them are anywhere like 7 to 15 minutes, which is perfect for my attention span. That can really help you really focus in on you and connecting with your body and your surroundings for that time. I like that there are series because I'm the type of person I like to check boxes and complete things. So I like that there are 7-day challenges in there so that I stay on pace each day. There are also, if you're around small children or teenagers, there are also kids meditations in there that I find really interesting as well that will talk them through a story or something of the sorts. Yes, I love the Calm app. Fun fact, if you do the trial of it and act like you're going to buy it but don't buy it, they'll normally send you a 50% off coupon code to subscribe to it for the year. So just a fun fact. But that is a way to also add in that mindfulness over the holidays and really focus on simplifying things. The final slide, which has my contact info on it, feel free to email me anytime. If you go and use that InBody or Fit3D, I'm going to type those into the chat so that you can find it as well. Either of those will be great for tracking results and just making you more aware of your health. If you get that printout and want to email me a picture of it, I would be happy to schedule a call with you to go through what all of those numbers mean and figure out how you can apply that to your health goals. That is also my personal phone number. Feel free to call, shoot a text, anything you might have a question about, or, hey, can you send me a link to those bands you were talking about? I will be happy to do that. I am a resource to a lot of people. Honestly, now it's spread all across the country. I have friends everywhere that text me questions all the time, so I am happy to help in that area. Does anyone have any questions right now I can assist with? Feeling pretty good?
Yeah, I think Ashlyn, that was really great. Thank you for doing that. I've got my workout bag that I'm kind of to come after work today. So I may ask you, do we have access to those machines at ICC? Or is that?
So we do not own one of them. Typically they are 5 to 10 grand. Okay. So it is an investment for either the supplement stores. That's why I say a lot of supplement companies have them in their stores. You can just walk in and use for free.
Got it.
And there's a lot of gyms in areas. Crunch Fitness, if you're near a Crunch Fitness, or a Gold's, typically they will have one that they will do free consultations with a trainer. And that is part of that for you. Or they charge $10 for a consultation. That you can do as well. So typically you can find one at a supplement store, especially Supplement Superstore, to do for free. I am currently actually working with the Supplement Superstore in Peoria to possibly get like an ICC day where they will do just free InBodies for people as well. So more to come for ICC on things like that, just so we don't have to purchase one, but we have a direct access to one.
Okay. Ashlyn, somebody asked in the chat about intermittent fasting and your thoughts on that.
Yes. So I will never say no to something, just because different things work for different people. Intermittent fasting does have a time and place. If it's something you've had experience with and really like, then absolutely you can maintain it. We can do it. I would definitely say shoot me an email as well, just so we can connect deeper on it, just because I would like to know your personal background as well before making big recommendations for you, Sandy. But the big thing with intermittent fasting is understanding it's not cutting out foods. It's just putting all of the macros that you still need to eat and getting to that basal metabolic rate into a very short time span.
Makes sense. Anybody else have any other questions? And if nobody else, I thank you once again, Ashlyn. This was really great. Appreciate you taking the time for us. And just thank you. Really entertaining and really informative. So learned some new stuff there.
Thank you.
So, and I think, did we lose her? We might have lost her for a little bit, but I think she's back. So thanks again, Ashlyn. And now at this point, so we're going to now jump to Valerie Moore, who's going to lead us through a guided meditation. Ashlyn or Valerie, do you need the screen?
I do not. I have a handout. I'm going to drop it in the chat now, in case people want it early. It does have the guided meditation on it as well.
Okay.
But that way people will have it after the fact. And then I can share it with you as well if anybody missed it. So thank you so much for that. I'm really glad to be following up on Ashlyn's presentation. So my name is Valerie Moore. I'm the Outreach and Engagement Librarian at Prairie State College, which is in Chicago Heights. And I am here today to talk a bit about mindfulness. I do think it's really important to note that I am not a mental health professional. I'm a librarian. And I come to you with experience as a longtime practitioner of mindfulness and what has worked for me. My hope is that by the time we're done together, that you'll be able to create your own mindfulness ritual, if you please, to ease whatever distressing events or stressful events might come up during the holiday season or any other time. And we're going to start with a little activity. I'd like everybody to take out a piece of scratch paper, or you can open a Google Doc or a Word doc, however works for you. And we're just going to spend a couple moments writing down something that is bothering you. It can be big, small, somewhere in the middle. You don't have to share. If you want to share it in the chat, you can, but that is by no means necessary. So I'm going to take out my little scratch paper and do the same. Don't need a lot of detail. Do you folks need more time? Give me a thumbs up or a comment in the box if you need more time. Okay, so let's talk very briefly about what mindfulness is and what mindfulness isn't. And then we'll do a very brief mindfulness exercise. You can practice one type of mindfulness. And then we'll do a little brief writing exercise to kind of tie everything together. So mindfulness is, simply put, being focused here and now on the present moment. This can be done multiple ways. Lots of people will set aside a certain amount of time, either using a timer or an app, to just focus on their breath. And what even seems like a very short amount of time, like 5 minutes, can be very long to just focus on your breath. There are also guided mindfulness exercises, like I'm going to be showing you. You can experience your 5 senses mindfully. You could mindfully eat something, which is rather pleasurable if it's something you enjoy eating. You can mindfully enjoy a scent or a touch. There's a mindfulness exercise where you stay in the single moment doing a task. I recommend that that's something that is fairly easy, like doing the dishes or going for a walk. You can notice your thoughts, you notice the sensations in your body, but you don't really judge it. So for example, if you sprained your ankle a couple months ago or something, and maybe it's bothering you a little bit with the weather change, you take note that, hey, my ankle's bothering me, but then you don't follow that down a path. You don't ruminate on the past or the present, concern yourself with the future. And for a lot of people, the exercise is not so much about making their mind blank, but every time their mind strays, bringing it back. Noticing, hey, I'm worried about the bills. I need to bring it back to my breath. And that is a common experience of mindfulness, is not so much being a blank slate, but bringing the mind back over and over again. It is a research method to treat health issues, but within a very specific context. And it started with the work in, I believe, the late 60s, 1970s of Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who is the professor emeritus at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. He started a stress reduction clinic for people with, you guessed it, stress, but also people experiencing chronic pain to help them with that. But it was not the only method. And it's well researched in this area, but a lot more research still needs to be done. Some of the criticisms are that it's become quite commercialized. I do tend to agree with this, that some of those criticisms are fair. It also came from Hindu and Buddhist traditions, so there is a conversation to be had that we just don't have time to really properly get into about cultural appropriation. Mindfulness is not, in my opinion, a cure-all for everything, nor should it be. When done well, it's part of a toolkit that you can have to deal with certain situations. And if being done with a practitioner, it would be part of one set of things that you're working with. I don't think it should be a cure for things like overwork or capitalism or any number of other systemic problems which really need systemic solutions. So let's spend a few minutes doing a mindfulness exercise that you can do on your own. This is listed on the sheet that I dropped in the chat, and I will also share it with Amy after the fact in case anybody missed it. It can take about 5 to 7 minutes, going a little slowly. And the idea being that you can do it in your car outside your in-laws' house, in a guest bedroom, hiding in a basement bathroom, or anywhere else that you need to. These are portable skills that you can use anywhere. So I'm going to do a guided body scan, which is when we go through different body parts, sitting as quiet as you're able to, and focus just on different body parts. I'm going to start at the bottom, by which I mean your feet, not your bottom, and we'll go up to the top of your head. We are going to intentionally tighten body parts so that you can kind of compare and contrast what it feels like when you're intentionally tightening it versus when it's a little looser. I tend to hold my shoulders, my tension in my shoulders, and I think a lot of people hold tension in other certain body parts so that you can feel the difference between I have tension versus I'm loose. So what we're going to do, let's just take a few moments to get comfortable. You can, it looks like most people have their cameras off, but if you have your camera on and you feel uncomfortable about that, you can turn your camera off. I highly recommend that this exercise be done sitting or it can be done lying down. Wouldn't recommend it standing. I'm a fidgety person. Get any of those fidgets out and find a nice resting place for your hands. I'm going to put mine on my tummy so that I can feel my breath going in and out. And let's just get comfortable for a couple seconds. And to get ourselves in the right headspace, I want you to just focus on your breath. And I put my hands on my tummy so that I can feel my tummy getting a little bigger and then pulling back. If you need a word or prompt, you can say to yourself, inhale, exhale. If your mind wanders, that's just what minds do. And bring it back to your breath. And let's start with our feet. And think about how your feet feel on the floor. Mine are on a footrest because I'm short, and kind of what that sensation feels like. And now, if you're able, I want you to intentionally tighten up your toes and feet very briefly. And on an exhale, release. We're going to move on to our calves and do the same thing. Tighten up your calves just very briefly. And release them. And same thing with our thighs. Tighten up your thighs. And release them. And now your bottom. Tighten up your bottom. Might feel a little silly and release. And our ab muscles, our stomach. Tighten it just briefly. And release. And our back. I think this one's a little awkward to feel. Tighten it up briefly. And on an exhale, let those muscles go slack. Your chest and your shoulders, tighten those up. And probably your biceps too. And release all of that. And now your forearms, fingers, hands, tighten those up. And release. And finally, your neck, jaw, your face. Gonna make a funny face. Sorry about that. Tighten it up. And release. And just as we started our exercise, we're going to spend a few moments just focusing on your breath. So I'm going to put my hands back on my tummy so that I can do that. And now, as we're about to close out our guided body scan, bring your attention back to where you are in your day. I like to wiggle my fingers and toes a little bit. Open my eyes back up. How was that for everybody? Feel free to hop on the mic or in the chat. I have a little kid, and so I always realize when I'm done with an exercise like that, how tired I am.
That was really good, Valerie. I appreciate that. That loosened me up a lot here. So thank you.
Yeah. So anybody else? So you have that in the handout. You can do it at any time. I think the Calm app was mentioned. I have some other apps mentioned in the handout. So let's take out that same piece of paper. Or if you had a document, a Google Doc or a Word doc, that's cool too. I also have the writing reflection in the handout. These are just some prompts. This isn't turn to end. But another thing you can do that's mindful is mindfully writing about being mindful and kind of that meta thing. So let's spend a minute and you can write about your experience, or if you think that this was a good experience and you kind of want to build it into your routine, how you might do that. So I'm going to take out my pen and do it with you so that I don't shortchange anybody. All right, does anybody have any questions for me? And I will drop, let me move my keyboard back. I'll drop my email address. I think it's in the sheet. I think my email's on the handout, but I'll drop it into the chat as well. Like I said, I am no mental health professional, but I have been doing mindfulness exercises since about 2010 because I was having some pretty extreme anxiety and have found them to be one of many things I do that is really helpful. Right. Thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you, Valerie. Appreciate that so much. I will make sure to include the email address when I send out the recording of this, and I will send out your sheet as well with that as well.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
So thank everybody for attending. And be on the lookout. This is the last professional development webinar for this semester, but we will be back in February sometime with something. I'm not sure what it is yet. I think we're still working on that, but we will be on the lookout. Probably in January, we will have our publicity starting. So thank you all very much, and I'm going to stop the recording.